Hey, it's the Midnight Raven, and today we're doing part 4 of the Potsdam murder case. So, this is a 4-part mini series that I'm doing on my channel for the Potsdam murder, as there was so much in this case, it needed to be split up into multiple videos. In part 1, we discovered that a 12-year-old boy called Garrett Phillips had been strangled and murdered. He was at his home when he was attacked by a random person or a person he knew and was murdered. Tandy, his mother, had multiple lovers and was going to and from lovers that could have explained possibly a motive for the murder. She was also involved in a interracial relationship that was causing problems, and that could have also affected the murder of Garrett. There was also the district attorney who was trying to help with the case, and Oral Hillary was the prime suspect in the murder case, although there was no evidence of him being guilty. He didn't receive a second-degree murder charge. He was acquitted of all charges, and this is the case from then on. So this is True Crime with Raven. I hope you enjoy the rest of this case. Let me know down below what you think of this case. If you want to see the other 3 parts, I will link them up here. So, after the trial of Oral Hillary and the death of Garrett Phillips, the police had been exclusively following Oral Hillary from the minute that Garrett Phillips was killed. The prime suspect for killing Garrett was always Oral Hillary, although they had little to no evidence to back this up, hence taking him to court, arresting him, but he was acquitted of all charges, failing to prove enough evidence for a guilty verdict. Jon Jones also could have played a part in Garrett's death. He'd had an on-and-off affair with Tandy, Garrett's mother, and had a distaste for Oral Hillary, her new man. But when Oral Hillary was disbanded from the relationship with Tandy due to the kids being bullied because Tandy was in an interracial relationship with Oral, Jon decided to swoop in effectively and get back with Tandy. So, although Jon at that point didn't seem to have any part of the death of Garrett, he couldn't exactly be entirely ruled out. So, Jon Jones' previous relationships with Garrett's mother would come into play, and whether maybe Jon was jealous, maybe Jon wanted rid of Garrett. It later emerged that on the day that Garrett died, Jon had called 911 on the day to get more information after Garrett was killed. He wanted to know what had happened and had spent that evening with Tandy. So maybe he was fishing for what the police knew. That way he could change his alibi, change his story. He was fishing maybe for information. So, further information that did come to light was the CCTV image showing Garrett on the street. Jon lived on the same street that Garrett was walking and would walk upon the street from the school to his home on the same street that Jon lived. So Jon can be seen pulling his car into his driveway the same day that Garrett died. There was also a witness who claimed to have seen Jon entering Garrett's apartment at some point in that evening. Apparently, witnesses claim that Jon had entered the apartment 15 minutes before Garrett had come home from the basketball game. This remains a question of, did Jon enter the building and did Jon kill Garrett? So police believe that the witness, named Gregory Brown, who was a co-worker of Oral Hillary, was trying to deflect the case and to throw suspicion onto Jon to keep Oral Hillary out of the police's eye line. So basically deflecting the case to a different person. So with the fact that it was a co-worker, they did take very little interest in this witness because it could be fabricated evidence to clear his co-worker. So it became public knowledge that Tandy had sued Jon in court, in a small claims court, after he had allegedly pushed her. She claimed he used his stature as a law enforcement officer to continuously intimidate her and basically become untoward to her. Her case would reach court but was basically thrown out, primarily probably because of Jon being a law enforcement officer. He may have had some sway in the case being thrown out. No charges were brought onto Jon. So, no one had currently at this time been charged for Garrett's murder. One other thing that came to light after the trial of Oral Hillary being acquitted was that Rain, the district attorney, in 2008 was charged by a New York court for deliberately suppressing evidence in the trial of Garrett Phillips that would have been beneficial to the defense, i.e., Oral Hillary or whoever they were defending. Mary Rain was found guilty of suppressing evidence and was banned from practicing law for 2 years. Seems a very small price to pay for holding evidence that could have seen Oral Hillary going to jail for 25 years for a murder that at this point they had no proof that he did. So all the evidence, once Mary Rain was arrested and charged, all the evidence that Mary Rain had suppressed was released to the defense attorney, and the defense attorney was able to look at it to possibly build an actual case against whoever may have killed Garrett with actual proof and evidence. You wouldn't believe such a thing could happen. It was obvious that Mary Rain was trying to get Oral Hillary, at this point in time, an innocent man, found guilty for the murder of Garrett Phillips, even though there was little evidence. And this is why this case seemed to be a racial profiling case where a basic white community were trying to stigma that a black man had committed this crime with no evidence to prove this. So, over the years, the evidence was released to the defense, but no one had ever been charged for the murder of Garrett. Until this day, this case still remains open. With all the evidence being released, you would hope in due course that maybe Garrett's murderer would come to light and that a trial would find the person or persons, if so, guilty of the crime of Garrett's murder. This was a 12-year-old boy who, for whatever reason, was murdered. Was it to prove a point? Did Tandy, his mother, have anything to do with it? Did her ex-lovers have something to do with it? Was he killed by a random person? At this point in time, these answers still remain a mystery, and I hope for one day, for the family's sake, that Garrett Phillips can rest in peace, knowing that the killer was put to trial and found guilty. So if you want to see more from me, this is True Crime with Raven. This was a 4-part series that needed a bit more in-depth detail with the racial profiling and the racism and all the evidence and hiding the evidence. I wanted to do this case justice. I feel sorry for the mother, Tandy, who lost a 12-year-old boy for whatever reasons. If it was a lover's tiff, if it was a scorned lover, if it was a random attack, you still feel sorry for a parent that lost a child. So if you want to see more videos from me, give it a big thumbs up. I hope these videos are interesting you and that I am getting better relaying details on that. One of these days I will be perfect at this, but for the moment you're just going to have to deal with the way I am. This is True Crime with Raven. Hope you will join me on my next case very soon. Give it a big thumbs up. Support the channel by either a PayPal or a membership. It all goes back into my channel and helps me spend time researching. And I will see you very soon for another true crime case. Take care and thanks for watching. Bye guys.